Hi, my name's Leonie Bolt, and I went from high school troublemaker and long-time backpacker to accidental entrepreneur. After 15 years working as a professional photographer and running my own studio, I grew into becoming a personal empowerment and business mentor to help other women to follow their passions and find their purpose too. I've learned to pave my own way through life, and now I empower others to do the same, to break through their limiting beliefs and empower them to shine. Welcome to the Empowered to Shine podcast, where we dive deep into creating a life by your own design. Welcome back to the Empowered to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Leonie Bolt, and we have our guest today, David Perez from Audience Coach. So David actually helps people get their message out to the world through podcasting. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much for having me, Leonie.
You're so welcome. Now, we've just worked out we're on opposite sides of the world, completely operating in different time zones. But that's the beauty of podcasting and internet, is we can be wherever we need to be, right?
Yeah, it's quite an enjoyable experience. You have a chance to talk to people from all around the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Audience Coach to start with, and then let us know how it all got started.
Okay, so the origin of Audience Coach is it comes from our background as podcast producers, because I work with a team. So we take care of like the whole technical side of podcasts, editing, publishing, and all that. We work with a lot of coaches, and we were finding recurring problems or challenges or friction points in their process of both the technical side of the podcast and the strategy side of the podcast. So we started we started collecting those common questions or common challenges, and we decided to start a podcast show that will address those issues, so coaches and entrepreneurs can have an easier way to create podcasts and run podcast shows and build an audience.
Yeah, fantastic. Because I know myself, when I thought about having a podcast for a while, and I thought, you know what, there's too much work in that. That's too hard. I've got too much to do already. And it is a challenge trying to get it all
Yes.
in.
It absolutely is.
So what do you find is one of the biggest challenges that people have?
I think there are challenges on two sides, Leonie. I think on the one side there is tech, because like you are an expert in your area, but maybe you don't know about microphones and software and all those things. So people are sometimes afraid of technology, microphones, software, like I don't know, the website they're gonna need. So even though they have the skill to speak in public, because like speaking into a microphone is a similar exercise to speaking in public, and they have a very good knowledge of the topic, they refrain themselves from starting a show because they don't know how to use the mic, for example. Um, that should be a That should not be a limitation though, because nowadays, like you can find very simple devices which are just plug and play via USB. So I mean that part should not be something that should scare you, but still happens and it challenges some people. And in terms of the strategy, I think the biggest challenge is expecting overnight results. Podcasting, just like any other type of content marketing strategy, because it is a content marketing strategy, it takes months at least to year results, depending of what you determine your results to be. So like some people start a show and they are frustrated because they haven't gotten any new clients or any leads after 3 weeks of launching the show. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like a Facebook ad. It's a different dynamic, different objectives, different results.
Yeah, it's definitely a long-term strategy. And it's a bit like thinking, oh, I'm going to start a blog, and writing a blog and going, well, I didn't get anything out of that. It's all about the backlinks and, like having that huge amount of content. And that's what I'm loving about doing the podcast, is it creates content on its own. We have these conversations, and then you can get your team to turn around and turn it into a whole bunch of stuff that you can spread across social media, emails, blogs, whatever that looks like. And it's a great way to repurpose content. So that's why I got into it, I guess, is so that I could create that content really easily.
Yeah, I think it's a very like a very quick way, a very fast way of creating content, because if you're gonna go to a blog post, you have to do a lot of research. Okay, for the podcast, you need to do the research as well, but then you have to do like the writing, and then you have to review, rewrite, like check the spelling, check the sentence structure and everything. It takes a lot of time. But with
Yeah.
recording a conversation is going to be a lot faster, and it's very flexible, because from that podcast episode you can get a blog post, you can create an infographic or audio snippets for social media. So it's very easy to derive content from a podcast episode.
The people that you help, is that something that you help them to work out what to do with that?
So we help them create, for example, snippets for social media. Audiograms is one of the kind of the content we create, which is like static images with sound waves. It looks very nice, for example, on Instagram. Or
Yeah.
sometimes they record the audio and they record video as well. So what we do is like we take clips of the video, like particular clips, key sections of the video. We add titles, we add subtitles, captions, or like other stuff to make that more appealing for social media. And I mean, it's a very nice way to promote the show and to spread the word into smaller pieces of content.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how did you get into doing podcasting?
Oh, actually, my background is very different from podcasting, but it somehow led me there. I used to be a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, and I started creating podcasts as a way to support my students in their processes. So it's pretty much the same you do as a business owner with your potential clients or with your potential leads. Is you create content around the like common friction points and common questions. I was doing the same with my students. I noticed that they were having like recurring questions, recurring problems. So I created podcast episodes that will address those issues and that will serve as support materials for them in their process, so they will not ask the same question over and over again. They will have a material just ready for them right there. Then I started producing podcasts for myself or as a hobby, and then I started doing that for other people. And then I got another client, and this client referred another one, and yeah, I ended up having a lot of clients and making a business out of this. I'm not a teacher
Wow.
anymore. Actually, I left teaching so I could
Yeah.
dedicate myself to doing this full time.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great way to start a business.
Yeah, almost by accident, I will say.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So yeah, that's the great thing about creating that content and stuff, is that you can always refer back to it. I know I even do it with my coaching clients. I might go, hey, listen to this podcast episode. I think you'll get a lot out of it.
Yes.
And you just keep coming back to it, and it's evergreen. It lasts forever.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it get the gift that keeps on giving, because it will help you with your leads. It will help you with potential clients. And I do the same as you just mentioned. Sometimes to people who are my current clients, I send them links to some podcast episodes like that I'm sure will help them in the process.
Fantastic. So when somebody comes to you and they haven't started a podcast yet, they want to get started, what's
Hmm.
one of the things that you tell them that they need to think about before they get started?
Oh, get a microphone. That's
Yeah.
something I always recommend. Get a microphone. Because in the long term you're gonna be using it a lot, so it's gonna be a good point of reference for your audio quality, and it's gonna be a tool that's gonna serve you for a lot of different purposes, not just podcasting. It's gonna serve you for your webinars, for your I don't know, online summits or Facebook lives or whatever other kind of content you're creating. So it's gonna be very useful. It's gonna be very useful. It looks cool on camera as well. It looks fancy, so it helps a little bit to the images, to the image. um so I think the other thing is to have a clear idea of who your audience is
Yeah.
and what you're
Yeah.
going to talk about. So if you have an idea of your audience, you need to be thinking about what problems they have, what needs and challenges they have, and address those things. And here is there is a very important thing, Leonie, is which is you're not your audience. Like sometimes we think because
Yeah.
we are passionate about what we do, it's like our audience is going to be as passionate as we are, and they are going to be interested in the same stuff we're going to be interested in. That's not true. Like sometimes you're going to find out they need or are interested in very different topics. So you need to be alert, and you need to have your mind open and your ears open to listening to them, and to identifying what it is they need.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like anything. You need to know your audience before
Yeah.
you start marketing, because you're marketing to
Yes.
everybody and you're getting nowhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of our audience is coaches, health and wellness. A lot of our guests have been in that space as well. To our audience, if anyone wants to do a podcast, but they're worried about the amount of time that it takes and the technology
Hmm.
and that sort of thing, what would you say to them to convince them to get started?
Okay. Time is a precious asset when it comes to business. So if you're a business owner, you need to be very mindful about where you put that asset. Okay, you're not gonna get it back. So what I always recommend, I think not just for podcasting but for any other areas that are maybe unknown to you, is get help. Get help, because like
Mm-hmm.
you're an expert in your area. You cannot, or you should not try to be an expert in every single area of your business, because first of all, you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And second of all, you're not gonna have the time to execute on all these things. Okay, it's not good that you become a bottleneck for your whole business.
Yeah.
So I think in general terms, get help to begin with. um, you can find somebody who has experience in podcasting and just ask them questions on two sides: one on what technical aspects of the show you're going to need, and the other on what strategies or like a structural aspects in terms of content you're going to need. That's going to be super important. Get help. That on one
Mm.
side. On the other side, some people are scared or are afraid, particularly for example, if they are introverts. I am an introvert. uh like, we are afraid of being there in front of a public. Even if it's something
Yeah.
recorded, it's not going to be live, but it's going to be recorded. We are going to be exposed to some people, and that makes us scared. But you have to do it. You have to like go out there and show up for your audience. um there is a strong thing of judging ourselves, and we think we suck,
Yeah.
or we think we don't sound well or good, or we think like our breathing or our mouth sounds, or like we make all these out like we are just obsessed with like the tiniest things. But actually, when somebody else is listening to the podcast episode, they go like, "Hey, this sounds great." And you go like,
Yes.
"No, can you hear like I hate the sound of my own voice?" Like, no, you sound great. Like, this message is clear. It's like it's very good. It sounds great. So sometimes we judge ourselves very harshly, but people are actually interested on the message you're delivering. So that
Yes.
mindset is going to
Yeah.
be very important. It's possible that you have to go through a learning curve at first, develop
Mm-hmm.
your skills at first. My first interviews were very robotic. Now they are a little bit more natural.
Yeah.
It's a skill set that you need to develop. The only way to develop it is take the first step, then take the second, and so on and so on.
Absolutely. And going back to being introverted, I think it's a great way for introverts to actually get out
Yeah,
there, because you're not doing live videos. You can sit in your office or your bedroom and record away and still put yourself out there to the rest of the world.
absolutely. For me, podcasting has been a great way to deliver my message because, for example, it still is very challenging for me to show up on Instagram and TikTok. I
Mm-hmm.
see people being very expressive on the videos, like dancing. Like, it's very nice to do that, but for me, it's very, very hard to do. So podcasting has been a way in which I can still be myself and deliver my message.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I started doing it because I was like, I'm really bad at doing Facebook Lives and Instagram Reels and all of that sort of stuff. But this way, I can just record it, give it to my assistant, and go make some stuff out of this and post them on social media for me.
Yes, yes. Actually, if you think for that creating podcasts is hard, I think maybe it's one of the easiest way you can create content. As we
Yeah.
mentioned, creating like writing blog posts, it takes a long time because you have to write and rewrite like at least 4 or 5 times before it looks good. Video is way more complicated with podcasting, so I think
Mm.
this is the easiest way to create content online right nowadays.
Absolutely. And like we said at the start, we can talk to people all over the world. I've had the opportunity to speak to so many beautiful people. And I wouldn't get that just going to my local networking events and having a coffee. You sort of see the same people all the time in your local area. It's a great way to get out there and meet people from all over the world.
Yes. I've had a chance to talk to people from India, from Ireland, from Australia, from the UK, from Canada, and the States. I'm not even based in an English-speaking country. Just like that's something to say already.
Yeah.
So there are no limits. There are no limits in terms of what you can offer your audience and what you can and how you can connect with people in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, David, tell us one thing about you that most people don't know.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Let me think about that. I love dogs. I really love dogs and really dislike cats.
You're a
Uh,
dog man, not a cat man.
I'm a cat guy, but I've come to like cats because
Yeah.
my children have a cat. So like
Okay.
okay, they're nice. They're nice.
Yeah. It's,
Like
it's a good
they're not
reason
like
to
my
start
best
liking
friend,
them.
but that will be something. Yeah, most people don't know. Like if they know I'm not a cat person, they will not know. I kind of like cats now.
Don't tell anybody.
It's still a secret. Yeah, it's still a secret.
Great. So, David, if our audience wants to know more about what you do with Audience Coach, if they want to find some resources on how to get started, do you have something that you can share with us?
Yes, actually, I have a page on my website which is called literally resources. They can go to audiencecoach.com/resources. There they're
Yep.
gonna find some free and paid stuff where like they can get information or templates or courses on how to start a podcast. Or if they need to contact us, they just can email me at david@audiencecoach.com. And yeah, and like even if you're not planning on starting a podcast right away, maybe in the future, and you have questions or you have no idea what you're gonna need, just drop me a line, and I'll be glad to help you out.
Fantastic. So make sure we put those links in the show notes. So if you're looking for those, it's leoniebolt.com/podcasts, and just check out this episode and we'll find the resources there for you. So do you have one last piece of advice for our listeners today?
Yes, if you're not creating content online, if you are not recording a podcast right now, you should get started because it takes some time to develop the skills you need to build an audience, and the best time to start is right now.
Absolutely. And if you're not ready to start your own, start getting on other people's.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a great way to start too.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today, David. It's been great to pick your brain. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of listeners with a lot of questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leonie. It was my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Shine podcast. My name's Leonie Bolt, and I'm glad that you were able to join us today. I hope you got some serious inspiration from today's episode. If you'd like to find more episodes, go to leoniebolt.com/podcasts or start subscribing on your favorite podcast streaming channel. I look forward to seeing you again soon.